How's it, everybody? Welcome back to Rocky Fern. My name is Luca and I have Hoya type 4. And in today's episode, we're going to be doing a follow-up on the Aroid Asia Hoya shipment. See what's needing to come out of that prop box because it's practically bursting out of the seams. And we'll see what I can take out and see what stays in the prop box. So let's get into it. Alright, so before we begin, let's just get into the two that I think I would be the most curious about, and it's the Hoya ritzii and the Hoya lambii af. No update. They still look dead as dead gets. So no roots. I don't think they're going to come back, but I'm going to keep them in the prop box until they're absolutely just disintegrated, and I am convinced at that point that they're not going to come back. It's a shame. If anyone has Hoya lambii af or Hoya ritzii, hit me up. I'm definitely open to adding those to the collection. But let's move to the good news of the video. So Hoya amicabillis, this is the one that had very little roots but was growing, and I rerooted it, and it has since put out some side shoots of roots here and has flowered. Let me see if I can show you that. I mean, look at those flowers. They're incredible. And these guys are heavy, heavy flowers. They bloom all the time. And they have a very delicate perfume. It's floral. I don't know what I would describe it as. A little light jasmine, maybe. As far as new growth on this guy, I haven't seen too much new growth since the one root that was holding it into the stratum came out, and here we are. But it's recovering. It is blooming. I'm kind of thinking it's a stress bloom, but it is rooting, so it's going to make a comeback just fine. I'm going to keep it in the prop box just so it can have all the TLC that it needs. But on a side note, sometimes you order multiples of a plant. You don't mean to, I don't mean to. And so I have another amicabillis from another seller. So I got this amicabillis from the Tropical Exotique order. That's where I also got the Discidia blue, or the Discidia caudata. But this guy, it was much smaller than the Aroid Asia order, but it's also starting to produce a peduncle and throwing out roots, and so you can see a much more typical growth form for amicabillis. Beautiful flower though. I'll post a picture right here of a close-up. Kind of a more bell-like shape, fuzzy, hairy opening to the flower. Not a typical Hoya bloom, in the sense that it's more cupped, it's more bell-shaped. Beautiful. I'm really liking this. So amicabillis, doing well. This is the one that was doing, they were all doing well except the two that died. This was doing the least well, and so we'll just kind of move on up from there. This is our next guy. This guy is Hoya caudata splash, and you can see that it's still beautiful, dark green foliage, throwing off a ton of these growth points, 2 new growth points with a ton of aerial roots. This is one that is begging to come out of the prop box in the sense of space. It definitely loves the conditions of the prop box. I haven't had any new leaves form on it yet, but I think it's definitely ready for me to at least crack the prop box lid open. So this guy is definitely ready to come out of the prop box. Our ambient conditions are really good for that transition. Right now we're looking at 91% ambient humidity with 78 degrees. So with all the rain that we've had, it's definitely going to be a good time to take these guys out of the prop box and have them start to adapt to more ambient conditions. I do keep these out in the greenhouse, the garage greenhouse, and also the Hoya wall. With all the rain though, I'm kind of glad that a lot of these guys stayed in the prop box for as long as they did, because I would be worried that they would be stressed out. But yeah, that is Hoya caudata splash. What a beautiful leaf. Very cool. And it just keeps getting better and better. So this is our next one. This is Hoya undulata splash, and it's still suspect to me as far as what exactly is the parentage of this plant, because it's not like any undulata that I have in my collection right now. There's no real undulation to the leaves, to the margins of the leaves. It does have beautiful splashing, but the new leaves keep coming out as something that's not undulata-esque. So at least the undulata that I know of. But yeah, it's doing well. It definitely has 2 new growth points that are still going strong. This new leaf is nice and firm, and it's a beautiful Hoya regardless. And of course, it's being kept in stratum. I'm being constantly reminded of how well stratum is working for my growing conditions, and if you grow in a similar condition that we do here, which is subtropical, high humidity, kind of mild temps, the most aggressive temps we get are like 90, which is rare. 85, 88 is kind of the average, 75 at night. Wintertime, we kind of do a little bit of a drop down by 10 degrees. I wish it was more, but these plants probably don't. So anyway, undulata, this is the splash, pretty plant. All right, let's go to the next one. This was one of my favorites from that whole update that I did about a month ago, and this is the Aceh. What a cool freaking plant. It's got a ton more arrow roots on it, you can see. I think once they recovered, now they're just starting to blow up. You can see that mid vein in the back, which I freaking loved, and you can see that sharp contrast between the petiole and the leaf. That's really what got me. It's such a cool plant. So many contrasts, so much beauty, and just such a simple form. The veins themselves are 3D textured, so you can see that. I'm going to show that one more time because that is such a cool feature of this plant. It hasn't produced any new leaves yet, but I'm sure it is just getting ready to. I did, because I did find some mealybug from that last video, I did put systemic on all the plants, and I haven't seen any mealybug since. And I've also done a little bit of slow release fertilizer on these guys. So I'm hoping that they'll just start to take off and shoot out. And I'm kind of not sure how I'm going to grow this guy. If it's going to be just a really wide trellis, something that isn't too sharp of an angle, because they seem to be more of a cascading style trellis or trailing plant, not so much as a tight cling, but we'll see. But yeah, these guys are doing well so far. All right, next are the buntok twins. That's what we're gonna call them. I have what I assume is the red and the green, even though right now you can tell from both that they're green. But the buntoks are doing great. They have this really cool kind of turtle shell shape to the leaves, real peltate, real kind of like umbrella-esque type plant that kind of gets you the idea. Like I said, they're growing up on this crotch of a tree, and they're really just protecting their roots and everything underneath, maybe capturing leaf litter and whatnot from falling debris, much like a platycerium would do. But yeah, I think these guys are gorgeous plants. They're doing super well. It's kind of one of my underdogs as far as favorites, because even though they have splashing, they're just real simple in their design. But kind of what's drawn me to them is their growth habit is so tight and compact. Literally, the internodal spacing on these guys is minute. We're talking 1/4 of an inch. So I like that. Growth point on this guy's going, and there's multiple growth points on this guy going. So what a cool plant. I don't think these guys like a ton of light, but I could be wrong. They eventually will be moved around throughout the collection to kind of experiment and see what they like. So we'll move on to the next one. This guy, if you remember, is Hoya stenokai. It had that hard water deposits from the grower. This is how it's come. It hasn't grown out of it. This newest leaf does have a little bit less. I don't water these guys from above, so all of these hard water stains are from, like I said, the grower. But there are a ton of aerial roots on this guy, and what I'm really excited to see is a new leaf. I really want to see what a new leaf looks like, because they are semi-tomentose, a little bit fuzzy. A really cool plant. Stenokai, it has so much potential to be an awesome kind of centerpiece plant, honestly. If you guys had one big leafed Hoya, it's probably, and you guys wanted something that's a little bit rare, a little bit less known, Stenokai is kind of fitting the bill right now. It's a very cool plant, doing really well. I don't know if I'll put it into highlight, but we'll see. But yeah, really rigid leaf, very firm, cool plant. And yeah, it's doing well as well. This is probably going to stay in the prop box because I don't see any new growth points on it yet. So until then, we'll just kind of give it the TLC, and it is small, so it's not pushing out of the box anyway, so it could definitely stay. Okay, so this is Hoya piestolepis. This guy looked amazing, so much so that I took him out of the prop box, and since then he's really kind of just struggled. So I'm actually going to put him back into the prop box. His leaves are wrinkled. I don't know if he's suffering any sort of root rot. Everything about it seems like it's suffering a little bit of root rot, but what's throwing me off is he's throwing the growth point is still shooting off growth. We have leaves forming and everything like that. So I think this guy's definitely a higher humidity loving plant, and for whatever reason it didn't like being pulled out. Maybe it was a little bit too harsh of a transition. So I will put him back into the prop box and yeah, give him some of the TLC that he's obviously desperately needing. But piestolepis, very cool. Hoya, it had really nice thick rigid leaves, so it's definitely going to go back in the prop box and make a comeback, and we'll do an update on this guy specifically here in probably 2 to 3 months, but we'll see. All right, so this is Hoya rundumensis. This is the other guy that I pulled out because he was looking so good. While he does show similar characteristics to the piestolepis, he does seem to be doing much better. So I am going to keep him out of the prop box. He's got some beautiful leaves to him, some splashing. I think he needs a little bit of a water, but he's not showing the same kind of decline that the piestolepis was. So yeah, this is rundumensis, very cool. It has kind of a parasitica or verticillata now look to it. And I think it's going to continue to make a pretty strong growth comeback. So let's move on to the next one. So this is the Hoya undulata red. So this guy definitely has the undulated margins, kind of the sawtooth margins, compared to the undulata splash. No margins, no undulated margins. So very interesting. But if you remember, this plant came in with a ton of roots, but it had 2 different cuttings that they kind of glued together, and the smaller cutting that had no growth on it at all, had just a bunch of growth points on it, finally shot out its newest leaf. And then last time I remember kind of like 5 growth points. There's definitely a bunch. It's just budding all over the place. And then this guy had 1, I thought maybe 2 growth points. Oh yeah, 2 growth points, maybe a 3rd forming. And so this is going to stay into the prop box as well. But Hoya undulata red, it's doing really well. These older leaves are definitely starting to show their age, and so I'm glad to see that this newest leaf finally popped out. But yeah, it's doing really well. And I've noticed that the stratum's actually semi-dry, but the humidity is so high in there that they're able to actually root in that quasi-moist stratum, which most epiphytic plants love that kind of moisture. They love the cozy blanket of high humidity that they're getting from the prop box. So Hoya undulata red, let's move to the next one. All right, so this is Hoya Sumbawa. This is such a cool Hoya. So you can see it's got a lot of growth points on it. Looks like Medusa over here. These are also kind of screaming to get out of the prop box. So it's definitely one that's going to come out of the prop box, or at least into a prop box with the top open. I think that would be much better. But yeah, this had such a very cool thick leaf to it. Looks like 2 new growth points here along the base, and maybe along this older stem. Well, oh yeah, there's a growth point right here too along this leaf right here. So we might even get a growth point on this leaf right here. But yeah, this is definitely ready to come out. I can't wait to see what these plants are going to look like in a year's time. The dream of mine is to have all these as mother plants, just huge, enormous, super happy fat mamas that are just kicking out growth. That is what I would love to see. I would love to see these guys in situ to see what a mature specimen looks like, but that I think is the goal of every plant keeper, obviously. But that's definitely what I'm interested in, keeping all these Hoyas and different plants, is to see them as just monster mama plants, super happy, super thriving. And then I think, you know, I'm a good plant keeper at that point. Right now, I just have a lot of plants, but hopefully I can turn that into I'm a good plant keeper. Anyway, let's move on to the next plant. All right, so this is Hoya evelinae, and it has 2 new leaves. I can tell because they're still super soft. And let me just bring them right up to the camera for you, because they are incredible. That really cool bronzy color, beautiful, beautiful plant. They will harden off to what these other older leaves are, but it is such a cool Hoya. And they have hairs on them. They're not as densely covered as like a Thomsonii, but they are more spaced out, kind of like my teenage kid's face that he calls a beard, but he'll get there. Heck, I still have peach fuzz and I'm almost 40, but anyway, yeah, beautiful plant. It's just, I'm so happy that this guy is liking it, growing well. It has this really big new growth point right here. It's definitely probably in need of a trellis, and these are one of the plants that I would love to see as a big mature mama plant. It's just something about this kind of unique but indistinct growth as a big plant, where you're looking at a mother plant or a large specimen and you're thinking, what the heck is that? I know it's something. Is it a Hoya? That to me I think is exciting. And then you start to dig deeper and get into the nuances of the plant and realize that, yeah, it's awesome. So yeah, that's this beautiful Hoya. It's kicking butt. And we'll move on to the next guy. This is one of my other favorite plants from the unboxing or the update video last time. This is Hoya ranauensis, and it's awesome. So you can see it just has a very callistophylla style leaf, and it has new growth right here. Check out that. So we got what, 2 new leaves there, and another leaf up here. All right, it looks like it's 1 leaf each, with the other side that hasn't come out yet. But yeah, they usually grow opposite of each other, but sometimes one leaf will kick out and then the other will start to. They don't always form together like a polyneura. And even polyneura will sometimes kick out one side and not necessarily always both sides. But yeah, the growth point that it was forming has yellowed off and has aborted that, but then there's 2, 3, 4 new growth points in lieu of that one. So it's definitely like in the prop box, but it's one of those that's pushing the envelope or pushing the ceiling of the prop box. I do think this guy can stay in the prop box for another couple weeks to a month, but eventually he's going to have to come out and maybe go into an open top prop box while the ambient conditions are so good. Come summertime, it's going to be 90 degrees and 40% humidity, and hopefully by then they've hardened off and have adjusted to ambient summer temps or conditions, but we'll see. But anyway, such a cool Hoya. I'm very excited to see these Hoyas doing as well as they are. Let's move on to the next guy. This guy was my funny little Lorax mustache last time, if you can remember. That's it right there. I love this mustache still, but even just a month ago, or since a month ago, a lot has happened. So this is Hoya tanggamus. This was definitely one of my favorites. This is awesome. This is a new leaf right here, and it's already hardened off. Wow, that is super hard. So I'm not sure when that thing kicked out, but since we've had the Lorax mustache, we've had this growth point happen, and then this growth point bifurcated or split, and now we have 2 new growth points, which is kind of a cool thing to do. This guy would be absolutely stupendous as a mature plant, something that would just be another major center point. I'm just kind of getting blown away by the beauty of this plant. This is such a cool plant. Tanggamus, that is definitely top 10 Hoyas for me. If you like that super veiny looking leaf, I would get it over callistophylla and maybe over most of the Finlaysoni, just because it is a little bit rare, but the growth form on it is so cool, and it overlaps that dark veination contrast between the main leaf, like a lot of Finlaysoni callistophylla do. This with the Aceh, I think would be, or Aceh, would be awesome. So that's my 2 cents. Take it with what you will. And it looks like we have a little bug in here. No, we don't. Just kidding. Just a little bit of dirt. But yeah, very cool. Tanggamus, love it. One more time with the mustache. Why not? And we'll move on to the next guy. All right, so this is Hoya patella pink, I believe. And it does have 2 new leaves on as well. And this was such a cool Hoya because it looked like the Javan plum to me. So this guy is so much more tomentose than the evelinae. I kind of likened it to my son's face, or my face. This guy's much more tomentose, much more peach fuzz, much more so like that of an actual peach. So let me get up there close and you can see new growth, bronze color, beautiful. Hopefully the tomentose covering is coming through. But But this guy has 3 new growth points. I can't remember how many it had last time, but it is doing so well. This is also one of those Hoya that's pushing against the ceiling of the prop box and definitely needs to come out. But oh man, it's so pretty. It's just, again, here's the evelinae. It's, again, one of those plants that if it was a big mature plant, you would take a look at it and just wonder, what the heck is that? Now, if you're a huge Hoya head, you would look at it and know right away. But I don't know if I'm that good. So if I saw a big plant of this in someone's collection, just a big pot overhanging, throwing growth points everywhere, I would have to, without the flower now, I'd have to go and just, you know, delve into the details, which is what I love, and kind of solve the plant, so, you know, solve the mystery of the plant. I'm thinking, I thought I saw a peduncle forming, but I don't think so, not yet. But patella have some of the prettiest, coolest flowers out there for Hoya. It's one of those really big kind of campanulata style flowers, very pretty, and definitely something you need in your collection. But yeah, it's like in the prop box as well. And we're getting near the end, so that's kind of great. Let's go to the next one. All right, so this is Hoya callistophylla, but it's the narrow form, and this leaf right here kind of explains why it gets the narrow form. It kind of looks like tanggamus. Let's get these guys side by side here so you can kind of get an idea of what I'm talking about. They definitely have that contrast with each other. Tanggamus definitely is more narrow of a leaf, and that's just how it grows. But they definitely have similar growth structure to them. They're definitely a vining, trailing style look to them. They're not very tightly vined, but they still definitely climb up. This callistophylla is starting to throw this growth point that has a new leaf on it, and it's doing that really weird Hoya thing where one leaf will kick off and then the next side will kick off as opposed together, which a lot of polyneura will do, where they grow together. But yeah, so this is Hoya callistophylla, really cool Hoya. This guy's probably ready to come out of the prop box. The original callistophylla I have outside is loving out there. It's growing all over the place, and it's getting kind of rambunctious in that sense. Having a hanging pot with a chain, and that thing has grown through the chain, up to the ceiling, up to the roof. It's just going gangbusters. How I'm going to get that guy down, I don't know, but it's really liking it. It's throwing a ton of peduncles, flowers all the time. Not my favorite scent, as you guys probably know, but yeah, this is Callistophylla narrow, very cool. We got one more guy to check out. So this is Hoya multiflora java, or Javanica, and okay, so it's definitely throwing off some new growth. It's got 2 new growth points down here, you can kind of see. And it also has some new leaves up here. But the cool thing about Javanica is the splashing. It's such a pretty leaf. Very cool. I don't see any other growth points besides these 2 and the guy right here at the terminal end of this old original growth. But I think when I got it, it was much shorter. And it lost all the leaves that it came in with. It was yellow when I got it, if you remember seeing that unboxing video. But yeah, it is doing really well. This guy I think is ready to come out of the prop box for sure, and that's probably what's going to happen. But this is how I've been keeping a lot of these imports. This was a very rough import. If you guys remember, it took months and months and months to actually come to fruition. I lost several attempts that Aroid Asia tried to make, but it finally came through. It did come pretty hot. It was in the middle of summer, I believe, or at least it was warm for us, about 80, 85 probably, and I did lose the 2, but everything else survived fine. And so yeah, prop boxes work really, really well. Maybe we'll do a video on how I make prop boxes. They're very simple, just any see-through plastic that you can drill a hole. You don't have to drill a hole. Yeah, they hold the humidity well, and they kind of just give you that intensive care unit that you need for some plants that are recovering. Some begonia in my collection won't ever leave a prop box. They just require that terrarium style so much so that not even the higher humidity here could sustain them long term. You know, the wintertime they do great here outside of a prop box. Come summertime it dries out too much. But yeah, if you like what you see, definitely give us if you like what you see, definitely subscribe to the channel. It helps us out a ton. Give a thumbs up, comment, because I love reading you guys' comment. I love interacting with you guys. And if you have any requests, definitely send them my way. But until then, we'll see you guys on the next adventure.